Good morning, Sam Tobias. Good morning, Beth Settle. You are up way early, Beth Settle. This is the earliest I've seen you in here. Good morning. Sam Tobias, Gregory Charles Popovich, just 4 wins away. Sam Tobias for Coach Pop.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night.
Oh,
Night divine.
I need to mute microphones for our friends at Facebook. Hector Gomez, good morning. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Wednesday. It is February 16th. And I still miss football. I guess that's not going to go away. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and our Soundscape stylist, Dave OEHLER, who we're going to have a talking to with Dave OEHLER, our Soundscape stylist. First of all, Shannon, I texted you, well, to be accurate, I Twitter messaged you this morning to see if you had seen Dave OEHLER's Facebook post from yesterday or last night, and you had not yet seen it, but now you know one of the big stories involving this show involves Soundscape stylist Mr. Dave OEHLER. Before we go to him, Shannon, should we just cut his mic off the rest of the show? Are we mad at him? Are we happy for him? How do we handle this news about this guy?
I'm not mad, Chris. I'm just disappointed. We finally get him on Twitter, and he's still making announcements on Facebook. You have Twitter.
That's
right. Where they go. So I did not see the news until you told me this morning, Chris.
So Dave OEHLER, first of all, welcome in this morning.
Thank you.
Secondly, there are listeners who are saying, what the heck are Chris and Shannon talking about? Do you care to make your major show/career announcement officially over the radio here on Ticket 760?
Well, as officially today, I'm a short timer. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and Daddy's moving back to home. Back to St. Louis.
Moving back to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Wow.
So roughly about 2.5 weeks from today, hopefully I'll be on the road and moving back to St. Louis. And I'm not looking forward to it too much because I saw the weather report there, and it's a lot better here.
All right.
No 85 degrees in February in St. Louis.
Now, you're originally from St. Louis.
Yep.
How long have you been in Texas?
I have been here for 18 years, just over 18 years.
My God.
I've been gone from St. Louis. I left in July of 95.
And
so a little over 25
How
years.
did you choose San Antonio and Texas 18 years ago when you were living in your hometown of St. Louis?
Well, I wasn't living in St. Louis at the time. I was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
And I'd been living there for 9 years, and the program director who was working here at the time hired me away from the station there.
Was that Ashwood?
That was Nate Lundy.
That was Nate Lundy. Okay. Wow. I was fired by Nate Lundy. Right? He was one of the first guys to fire me. Actually, that was my first firing in radio. It wasn't really a firing, it was a demotion, and I said no.
Yeah,
so
no.
That's usually how it works for me.
You're not officially in radio until you've been fired.
Right. It's like, yeah. When I first got into radio, they said to me, there's 2 types of people in radio, those who have been fired and those who will be. And after a few years, I was one who would be. So and Nate and I are friends now, and it's all good. Just like Kawhi Leonard, Shannon, I'm all about forgiveness. You can fire me, and now we're buddies. It's a beautiful thing. So
Well, one day you will forgive.
So you're
Dave.
going to. And not today, though. Yeah, we're going to treat Dave like crap all day long for abandoning us. Dave OEHLER, you're the new Kawhi Leonard now. I'm taking all my angst that I had toward Kawhi, and at least until 9 o'clock this morning, I'll just direct it at you now.
But the best part about the job is no more 2:30 a.m. wake up calls.
Dude.
That's the best part about it.
Okay.
And the money's nice too. But the best part is I get to sleep past 2:30 in the morning.
So you get to go home. It's your hometown, St. Louis.
Right.
You're going to a really good radio station, KMOX. Jack Buck, Bob Costas. I mean, some of the biggest names ever.
David OEHLER.
Dave Ayler, some of the biggest names in radio have gone through KMOX. You don't have to wake up at 2:30 in the morning anymore. You're going to be working middays, and you're going to make more money?
And,
Come on!
And it's the home of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Busch Stadium is 2 blocks away. So I, even after the show's over, walk across the street, go to the baseball game. The Arch, St. Louis Arch, is literally right across the street.
My
From the
goodness.
station. Yeah.
Very cool, Dave Ayler.
Thank you.
Well, we will miss you.
I still have some work to do here. I'll be here another couple of weeks.
Okay.
No, I'm not leaving yet.
When is your last official day at iHeartRadio?
I believe it's the 2nd of March. It's
March.
2 weeks from today.
Hence the 2-week notice.
Yes. Those are the best 2 weeks of any job.
Oh, my goodness. Well, and see, and I always wonder, are you just going to, it's like today. Today is my last day before vacation. I do have to work the Spurs game tonight, but I always, my only chance to get some significant time off with my wife, Beth, is during the NBA All-Star break, because otherwise there's a Spurs game seemingly every other night, sometimes consecutive nights between October and April, and that turns into May or later if they get into the playoffs, and they will this year. So I always wonder, on my last show, it's like I don't want to just phone it in. I got to focus on actually doing a good show and not think about the beach and the vacation that awaits me tomorrow. So, are you going to be as focused, or are you just going to phone it in for the next 2 weeks? Right
now, my mind is in about 10,000 different places. So hopefully I can stay focused. And actually, coming here will take my mind off all the other drama that I'm dealing with. I got movers finally booked. I got to get stuff packed. I got to get a house on the market.
Man,
got to call my real estate agent today. Get that done. It's moving in easy.
I know. Yeah, no, it's major upheaval when you move. And so, Shannon, what is the deal with St. Louis? 1 year ago, our Soundscape stylist was Scott Manziera, and he goes, "Oh, I'm leaving. I'm going to St. Louis. I'll see you. Bye." And now David, St. Louis just keeps picking off our team members on this show. I'm going to have to start hating the city of St. Louis, Shannon.
And all signs point towards when people leave St. Louis, they become Super Bowl champions. So I don't know why you would go there.
They were Super Bowl champions when they were in St. Louis too. The greatest show on turf.
That's true. They did win one in St. Louis. That's true. But then Brady beat you the next year.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, say hi to Scott Manziera for us when you get to St. Louis.
I haven't heard from Scott yet, but I'm sure I'll be in touch with him.
He probably, unless he read your Facebook post, he may not know yet. He's probably going to come to you looking for a job at KMOX. He'll say, "Hey, man, remember me? I was your buddy from San Antonio."
Yeah, I am going into management now. Look
there
out.
You go.
Watch out.
So yeah, you're going into management now. So
executive producer, yeah.
So you could fire me. You could be the next guy. You could just fire me from St. Louis.
That would be great.
It'd be great. You just phone that in. You're fired. You're fired. Beautiful. So Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, what are we going to do now without Dave Ayler?
That's a very good question that we need answered pretty quickly.
We'll work on that. All right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. On to sports. Shannon, you mentioned it yesterday. It was a big deal. The Red River rivalry. Is it the rivalry? I know that we're not supposed to say shootout anymore. So is it the showdown? Is it the rivalry, formerly known as the shootout?
I say
Red River shootout. And they needed extra time to shoot it out on the basketball court last night. Texas and OU go to overtime last night.
Yes, sir. Final score 80-78. Longhorns get the win in Norman. Exciting game. At times, Texas had a larger lead at points, so it was disappointing that it had to go into overtime. But ultimately, anytime you get a win over the Sooners, especially in their own house, that's always a good sign for Texas going forward, especially because we know who's next. It's Texas Tech this weekend, 11:30 a.m. at Club Irwin, and that one is going to be crazy. So good to have a win, especially after coming off that loss to Baylor.
I heard a statistic this morning about the Longhorns men's basketball team. They are 16-2 against unranked opponents. And you might go, well, that's unranked opponents. What about Baylor? What about Kansas? What about Texas Tech? The point is, Shannon, we talk about this a lot. You're supposed to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And OU, unranked, that's a team Texas was supposed to beat. So I think 16-2 against unranked opponents, you're taking care of business largely where you're supposed to take care of business. Now as we get closer to March, and then comes Big 12 tournament and March Madness NCAA tournament, Texas and it'll be a great test, as you mentioned, on Saturday against Texas Tech. Texas needs to now start consistently beating ranked opponents, tune themselves up, and get ready to go for the couple of tournaments that are coming their way.
Yeah, this is where you separate yourself, because you can't do what happened last year in the tournament and start off by losing to an Abilene Christian University. And all signs so far this season, as you point to, they've beaten the unranked teams. They've won the games that they're supposed to win, but great teams win the games that maybe they're not supposed to win. That's how they get over that hump. And certainly this last stretch with Texas Tech, Baylor, and Kansas, all great opportunities for Texas to really pull things together as we get closer to tournament time.
And just thinking about what you just said, though, the loss to Abilene Christian in the first game of the NCAA tournament last year, won and out and ousted by Abilene Christian. No disrespect to Abilene Christian, but I mean, you look at the universities and the size and the resources and the teams and the athletes. So, I mean, Shaka Smart, that was like adios, amigo. This has to end now. Can you imagine? No matter who the opponent is for the Longhorns in the first game of the NCAA tournament, Chris Beard is going to have so much pressure. It's like, I cannot lose this game. I cannot, no matter who they are. And they're probably, they're not going to be a big name in all probability. It's going to be like Austin P or something. But he's got to be saying, walking onto the court, a few weeks from now for the opener.
Yeah.
He's going to say, come, all right. That cannot happen. Of all the things that could possibly happen today or tonight, that cannot happen.
Especially as the guy who, part of the reason, aside from him just being a great coach and a Texas alum, he took Texas Tech to the finals. He took Texas Tech to the Final Four. Like, that's why they brought him. We need someone who can take us deep into the tournament. And the first step is that first game, which Texas has not been able to win in recent years. I mean, they've been lucky in recent years just to get into the tournament at times. So for him, on one side, it probably is a ton of pressure. And then on the other side, he may be thinking, I mean, how hard can I be?
True. That could be, and he probably doesn't feel pressure like we or I may assume that he does. How hard can it be? That's beautiful. I did hear listening, as we get ready for the show, I've obviously got this radio station on, and we cite these guys because they'll say something that piques our interest now and again. Two pros and a cup of Joe. So LeVar Arrington, Brady Quinn, Jonas Knox on Fox Sports Radio nationally right before this show. And I heard Jonas Knox say, Mike Girardi, we talked about Tom Brady yesterday, and okay, Brady is now indicating he's happy. So he's going to stay retired. Now it's another day. So it's another report, and it's in the other direction. Now, Mike Girardi of the NFL Network is saying that he has talked to people close to Tom Brady, although these are people in New England, which is weird because he's no longer in New England. But there are people in New England who are close to Brady, according to Mike Girardi of the NFL Network, who say, nope, he's not done yet. They're not at all convinced. They believe Tom Brady will come out of retirement. Here we go again, Shannon. Is he or isn't he? Should he stay or should he go? I got a feeling, Shannon, we talked about this yesterday. This Tom Brady story, not only is it going to go on the entire offseason, but even if he doesn't come out of retirement before opening day of the regular season, I think it's still going to be with us into midseason and even late in the season if somebody has a quarterback knocked out and if Brady is tanned and rested and has been working out with his glorious TB12 program. I just think it's almost like COVID. It's the new reality. We got to get used to it. The new reality is we got to get used to these Brady stories. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. Probably every week there's going to be new Tom Brady stories.
I was going to ask you if there was a date in mind that if he were to come back, whether it be with the Bucks or trying to get to the 49ers, like what is like the cutoff date? But you're totally right. I mean, he could be waiting in the wings throughout the entire season. Like you may think season starts, okay, we're officially done, but someone gets hurt, whatever. he comes back in and is the hero to all those who need him. So yeah, unless we get video footage of him actually eating a Subway sandwich, not just smelling one, I will believe that he is still going with his TB12 avocado diet with no carbs and no deliciousness whatsoever.
And of course, we're one of our viewers on the live video feed. Tracy Bogert says Brady to the Niners. And yeah, a lot of people do believe that. We got a lot of show coming at you. As we found out yesterday, even though the Super Bowl's over, there's all kinds of stories in the National Football League to talk about. We were just talking about Brady. There's all kinds of other stuff. We will get to it. Hoops, we talked a little UT basketball. We'll talk more college basketball. And in fact, in college basketball, Coach K has to leave the game yesterday for Duke in the middle of the game with an illness. We'll get into that. We'll talk NBA, San Antonio Spurs, and more. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs on a Spurs game day / game night. Spurs final game for them before the All-Star break tonight. They are in Oklahoma City. Bill's going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Coming up, the high five play of the day. Your chance to win $1,000, grand in your hand. Cash contest at 7:20 and 8:20. Shannon's Salty Shakedown just after 7:30 with sports history and sports birthdays. You are welcome to join the show either on the live video feed via Facebook Live, via Twitter, or YouTube, or you can dial us up. We'll take your phone calls as well. 800-707-9760. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is a traitor. He's a turncoat. He's abandoning us. He's leaving on a jet plane after he, sells the house and does all that other stuff. Dave OEHLER, your short timer, Soundscape stylist. We are with you till 9 o'clock this morning. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Woo! According to my research, only one player in NFL history has won Super Bowls with 3 teams. That would be Matt Millen. Wow. That's pretty amazing that there's not more than one. I know the Cowboys had Herb Adderley. Herb won 2 with the Green Bay Packers and won Super Bowl 6 with the Cowboys. But that is amazing. 56 Super Bowls. And if that's accurate, and I know you do your research, Tracy, I have no reason to believe it's not accurate. That's pretty amazing, man. I'm wearing my Ram Dass Be Here Now t-shirt from the cover of Ram Dass's book, which was a phenomenon in the early 1970s. I think it came out in 1971. Many years ago, and Ram Dass has since passed. I saw with my wife, Beth, Ram Dass in Austin. He came to Austin. I also saw him in Southern California when I lived out there, but that was the last time I saw him. He was in Austin, Texas, and that's where I got the shirt. It's like, hey, man, I'll take that Ram Dass shirt. Be Here Now. We'll let you focus in on the man who's leaving us, Dave OEHLER. There he is. Okay, what do I need? I need coffee. It's there. I need some ice. That's what I'm going to go do. I'll be back in a sec. Ryan Pepe Brown, welcome in. Louisa, Dave is going to St. Louis, his hometown, radio station KMOX, which is a kind of a legendary radio station. So that's way cool for him. He won't have to do the morning show, so he gets to sleep in. He'll get more sleep. And apparently they're paying him more money. So more sleep and more money. And he goes to his hometown. And he becomes the second Soundscape stylist that we lose to St. Louis, as Scott Manziera went back to his home in St. Louis as well, a little over a year ago. Louise Locker, Elf Louise. Good morning, Louise. How are you? Always love it when Louise Locker comes in here. Classes up the show. Not that you people don't all have class. You do. I'm talking about me. It's like, wow. We got Elf Louise in the house. We have Louise and Louisa. You two should do a sitcom. Louise and Louisa. Yeah, Wes, that would not have been good. Good to see you're doing great, Louise. Louise, and for everybody, I go on vacation tomorrow. Going to Port Aransas. It's my only chance for a vacation during the Spurs season is when they have the All-Star break. So it used to be pre-COVID. It used to be Cancun. But I'm not getting on any airplane anytime soon. So happy to go to Port A. So Coach A, Paul Alexander, will be here with Shannon, and it won't be Dave tomorrow. It'll be Dave on Friday. Paul Alexander for the next 5 shows, who is always spectacular. Oh, no, I'm wrong. It's Andy Everett on Wednesday of next week. So Paul's doing 4. Yeah, and Louise, I just love, I could just sit and stare at the ocean for days and hours, and I'm a big fan. Here we come.
It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-777-9760.
Welcome in. Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and short timer Dave OEHLER, your Soundscape stylist, on our live video feed. Elf Louise, most people in San Antonio will recognize that name. Her real name, Louise Locker, who started the Elf Louise Christmas Project while she was a college student at Trinity University in San Antonio. And for the people outside San Antonio, our Austin listeners, I'm sure a lot of people in Austin know who she is. She's kind of a big deal. She started as a college student giving Christmas gifts to children who otherwise might not have Christmas. And it grew year after year after year. It grew and grew and grew into a great nonprofit called the Elf Louise Christmas Project that, and I'm sure I'll not get the number exact, but something like 20,000 families now served every Christmas by the Elf Louise Christmas Project. Happy to have Elf Louise with us on the live video feed and everybody else who is joining us there as well. I saw Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. So people not only across the great state of Texas, but across the country and around the world. If you ever want to access the live video feed, it's easy. You can get there through Facebook Live for AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook page, either one of those radio stations' Twitter pages, and there is a YouTube portal into the live video feed as well. As we mentioned, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Chance to win $1,000 coming your way. The grand in your hand cash contest at 7:20 and at 8:20. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history and sports birthdays just after 7:30. And you can dial us up 800-707-9760 if you want to talk on the phone lines. But what we do at this time is give out the high five play of the day. It's a beautiful thing. And Shannon, High Five Play of the Day, as you well know, is sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. You have been seen at High Five wielding an axe from time to time, not in a bad way. She's not an axe murderer yet, as far as we know. Shannon, tell us about the High Five fun in the Austin area.
Well, it gets so fun for adults on Wednesday because it's all night happy hour. On a Wednesday night, middle of the week, go ahead, break out, relax, have one of their brand new cocktails that they invented just for the new year 2022, and do axe throwing. I mean, what's a better combination? Axe throwing and a delicious cocktail, maybe bowling and a delicious cocktail, maybe a couple rounds of laser tag and a delicious cocktail, or you're prepping for All-Star Weekend and you're playing one of their many varieties of basketball arcade games. There's plenty for everyone to have fun, get involved at either of the Austin area High Five locations, Lakeway and one in Central Austin on Anderson Lane. Today, Chris, we talked a little bit of Texas basketball already as they beat their rivals, the Oklahoma Sooners, yesterday in Norman, but we're going to give a high five to a former Texas Longhorn this morning because Jarrett Allen has been selected to the All-Star game. He will be on Team LeBron. He is replacing James Harden, which doesn't come as too big of a shock for a lot of folks. Whether or not he pulled himself out because he's quote-unquote hurt, or if he's actually hurt, that still remains to be a question. But the question no longer remains if whether or not Harden will play in the game this weekend. He will not. So Jarrett Allen, a guy who a lot of people felt deserved to be a part of this All-Star games. They were disappointed he didn't get the initial vote. They were disappointed he didn't get the commissioner's nod. And then when there were other replacements named, people were upset that he didn't get the nod. But now he's officially in. And Chris, that makes him the 4th Longhorn to ever be named to the All-Star team. And since, 2010, the only All-Stars to come from Texas have been either Kevin Durant or LaMarcus Aldridge. Okay, so Jarrett Allen joining the All-Star roster in 2022. Of course, Kevin Durant is the team captain on the other team. He's not playing. He is hurt as well. It's part of why we had some alternates come in. But congratulations to Jarrett Allen. You know, he was one of the Fro Bros when he came into Texas. And he still rocks it to this day. I mean, it's a great look for him. He wears it well. He was a rising star when he played for the Nets, but because of the James Harden trade last year, he got moved over to Cleveland. He's really continued to grow his game as a standout player, clearly great enough to become an all-star. And he still seems so young and so little. He's still such a skinny dude. I think he's got a lot more ahead of him. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Texas fans. Just another reason to tune in this weekend to NBA All-Star Weekend. He'll also be taking place in the Taco Bell Skills Challenge at State Farm All-Star Saturday night. So that's something to look out for him as well.
And you just said, Shannon, he still seems so young. I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. He's still only 23. You know, he's one of those guys who came into the league very, very young. Mm-hmm. And it's Jarrett Allen. He's having such a great year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, I do the Spurs broadcast with Bill, and I'm always updating him on scores from around the league. And it seems like every time I give Bill a Cleveland Cavalier score, and they are surprisingly good this year, I wind up saying, high score, Jared Allen, 31 points or whatever he's doing. And not only, Shannon, as you know, did he go to college at the University of Texas. He went to high school in Austin at St. Stephen's Episcopal School. Are you familiar with St. Stephen's Episcopal School in Austin? That must be a good basketball mecca, I'm guessing, if Jared Allen went there.
I have heard of St. Stephen's. Where it is, I'm not sure, but I have heard of it.
Very cool.
But
he's very, very deserving.
Yeah, also as we said, he's having a great season. He's actually averaging 16.2 points per game, which is a career high for him. And right now he's got the second highest field goal percentage in the NBA at 66%, which is on pace to become the best shooting mark over a single season in Cleveland franchise history. Hard to imagine that LeBron James, you just assume his name is next to all of the records, right? But I don't know if he even holds that record specifically. But for Jared Allen to get the chance to make his name in history for a team, for a franchise, that's pretty darn cool. So congrats and high five to Mr. Jared Allen.
Big high five to Jared Allen. You mentioned, Shannon, as well, that he was once one of the fro bros, and I'm looking at his current photos. He's still rocking the fro. I'm a big fan of the afro because it reminds me, Shannon, of the ABA. When I first started watching basketball at the Hemisphere Arena, it was the mid 1970s, and so many of the great ABA players, Dr. J, Julius Erving, a lot of Spurs had great afros. James Silas had a great afro. The late Mike Gale was a tremendous. And I mentioned James Silas and Mike Gale. They had not only the afro, but they had the puka shells that they would wear while playing for the Spurs. And obviously, I've been follically challenged most of my life. I couldn't grow the afro, but I could get the puka shells. So I wore my puka shells proudly to Holmes High School. But the greatest afro in the American Basketball Association, most people would agree with me, Shannon. He played for the Indiana Pacers. Darnell Hillman was his name. You can Google image Darnell Hillman at any time, and that was quite the prodigious afro. Whenever somebody rocks one modern day like Jared Allen does, I like it. I think it's a cool look, and I think it's a throwback, at least it is for me as a basketball fan, to the 70s. So I like it a lot.
Yeah. And for those wondering who the other bro was for the Texas team, it was James Banks, who is still playing. His career's taken a little bit of a different route than one Jared Allen. He's currently with the Texas Legends, which is the G League team there in Frisco.
Hey, man, he's got a shot. I mean, Danny Green, a lot of these players, if you just keep it going, Danny Green coming out of, I believe, Duke. Was it Duke or no, North Carolina? I knew it was one of those ACC schools. Danny Green, it didn't work right away. He was in the G League. And I interviewed him once, and he told about just how there was a moment when he was offered a lot of money to go play in Europe. And G League players don't make a lot of money. So he could have gone to Europe and made decent money. And his agent said to him, look, if you stay in the G League, you're going to have more NBA eyes on you than if you go to Europe. If you go to Europe, you can make some nice money right now, but you might get lost in the shuffle. So Danny Green bet on himself, stayed in the G League, and, the rest is history. Danny Green now has, multiple rings with the Spurs, and in Toronto, he won one with our good buddy Kawhi Leonard, who I never speak ill of anymore because I used up my whole complement of ill will things to say about that man. So so hopefully the G League will work out.
Yeah,
as it has for a lot of players and continues to do so.
Well, and we love what they're doing with the Rising Stars Challenge now at the All-Star Weekend, or it's going to be a first. So I'm excited to watch it, actually, where they're doing a tournament style, and within each of the different teams, they're going to have some G League players. So they're going to get in the mix with current guys who are at that next level and see how they work. And there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. So those guys could get an opportunity here shortly should they perform really well and maybe even win the whole thing.
Yeah, so smart of the NBA to do that. And again, we talk about how the NBA, with its All-Star Weekend experience, continuing to change things up and innovate and try to make things more interesting. And you and I both agreed on the way they're handling, the young players tournament there. It's a cool thing. Something I do want to mention is it is interesting. You brought this up about Jarrett Allen, how James Harden continues to kind of be a force, at least impacting his career, because Jarrett Allen was with the Brooklyn Nets. When James Harden gets there, it winds up precipitating Jarrett Allen's move to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now James Harden is on the All-Star team. He is, but he isn't. He's not going to play, so there's an opening. So because of James Harden, now Jarrett Allen gets an opportunity to be an NBA All-Star.
Yeah.
And yesterday, Shannon, we heard, he's been kind of quiet. And in fact, I heard someone say this morning that James Harden, nobody had heard him speak publicly for over 2 weeks. Since his last game with the Brooklyn Nets was like god awful. He was like 2 for 11, and it was against Sacramento, and Sacramento beat them, which should have been unheard of. But we did have some James Harden news, and we got to hear him speak yesterday.
Why did you want out of Brooklyn, and why did you want Philadelphia to be your destination?
Originally, when I was going through everything I was going through, in Houston, Philly was my first choice. It just didn't happen. So, but just detailed, I don't really want to get into, the Brooklyn situation. I just knew, for a very long time, this was a perfect fit. And obviously you got a big man, the best big man in the league in Duel. And then obviously the coaching, just from top to bottom, it made sense. And I'm just happy and blessed that I'm here. And as Doc and everybody knows and everybody wants is to win and be the last team standing. So I'm excited for the opportunity.
And Shannon, I don't know what to think about James Harden. I heard some of his other comments from that press availability yesterday. And he says, we're here to win a championship. We're here to win it this year and in future years. And you look at how things have gone for James Harden, he and Russell Westbrook, it's like they do kind of drive me crazy. I'm not really a big fan, but I also, I realize what it must be like for them. And obviously these are huge multimillionaires. Life is good no matter what for James Harden. But you just wonder if, again, you go now to the Philadelphia 76ers, and if you fail there, and if they become a worse team because you are on that team, James Harden, my God, what a reputation James Harden is forging as he continues what should be a remarkable career.
I didn't believe a word that came out of his mouth during that clip. You're telling me that you in no way, shape, or form wanted to go to Brooklyn? The cake that was already baked with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. You were supposed to be the icing on top, right? They were already the favorites to go all the way last season before you showed up. And then you showed up and it was, here we are, unstoppable, the next big three. And y'all just couldn't get it together. I'm not saying that he maybe didn't also consider going to the 76ers as an option. Because anything at that point was better than Houston. He was clearly unhappy there. But up until last week, everything out of the Nets camp was James is happy, James is happy, James is happy. You're telling me he was unhappy the entire time? Because remember when he showed up for his first Nets game and it looked like he took a fat suit off? If he was unhappy to be there, I would have thought he would have kept it on. I just don't believe that for a second that he never wanted to go to Brooklyn at all. Because, like I said, that cake was baked. He was supposed to be the icing. It didn't work out. Now you're trying to cover that up, and not just not basically admitting that you failed. Way to go, James.
And imagine now if Brooklyn, and Brooklyn's been in a tailspin, losing a bunch of games in a row. They're in complete disarray. Now Brooklyn gets Ben Simmons. We'll still have Kevin Durant. We'll still have Kyrie Irving. They still have LaMarcus Aldridge. They still have a lot of really quality players there. Imagine if they start playing better now. What if it's addition by subtraction? What if Brooklyn starts winning again and playing? And because they got such good guys on that roster. And what if Philadelphia, which has been a force this year and for the last several years in the Eastern Conference. What if Philadelphia doesn't play as well? Because as you well know, Shannon, and we talk about it, to win a championship, you need chemistry. And James Harden is not known for adding chemistry to a locker room and to a franchise.
Yeah, it's one of those, maybe you're the problem, James. You probably are. I mean, look back at Houston and what all that they did for you to try and help you out, right? The guys they brought in to say, all right, here's your go-to, here's your buddy, make it work. And it just didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. And all of a sudden he was like, well, clearly it's not me. It's Houston. Let me get out of here. Look where we are now.
Yeah, gosh, if you're a Houston Rockets fan, you got to feel a lot of angst toward James Harden. I'll never forget Manu Ginobili's from-behind block of one of his key shots in the playoffs that gave the Spurs a win and really propelled the Spurs to the next round. That was a beautiful moment. Coming up, speaking of Spurs, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, just after 8 o'clock. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk more NFL football, NBA, college hoops, Olympics. Shannon's Salty Shakedown is coming your way just after 7:30. This day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Oh, yeah, and your chance to win $1,000 coming up at 7:20. You'll get another shot at 8:20. We do it throughout the day on the 20s, beginning at 7:20. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is Dave Ayler. I'm Chris. Till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Okay, Taro Kotani, you're telling me you got great news to break. Now you got me curious. Yep, Patty Mills is on that team. You are correct, John Williams. And yes, I do remember Artis Gilmore very well. Took a picture with him when I was a kid at the Hemisphere. And actually I wasn't in that moment. I wasn't calling for it yet. I was going to kind of lead into it a little bit, but it still worked out. Yeah. No. I was kind of in that moment. I was throwing to Shannon, but it still worked. It was, it seemed like longer to us, but it was like a second and a half. It was fine. Jason Garcia, what is up? So yeah, Hemisphere Arena, 1975 probably, with a Polaroid camera. My friend Steve Duraco, who is often in here, we're running around the Hemisphere Arena getting photos with Spurs. But Artis Gilmore was a big deal with the Kentucky Colonels, all 7'2" of him. So I saw him coming out of the Colonels locker room. So we ran over. I got a photo with him. He was the nicest guy in the world. I mean, obviously 7'2". And in 1975, I was like 5'6". I still had some growing to do. And then, of course, later he comes to the Spurs. One night, we were stranded in the Atlanta airport trying to get back from New York City, where we saw Ken Slavin play on a Halloween night gig a number of years ago. So the bad news was getting stuck overnight in Atlanta. It was an horrible experience. The way that airport, the lights were on full blast fluorescent lights all night long in the entire terminal. Every television was blasting CNN. You couldn't lower them because they were up there. You couldn't. And the chairs, all of the seats had these huge immovable armrests. So you couldn't even lie down unless you would lie down on the floor. It was a horrible airport to be stuck overnight. And, but the next morning, this is where I was going on that. The next morning, I'm getting on the flight to San Antonio, and on that flight is Artis Gilmore, former Spur. So I said hello to Artis. Good guy, one of my favorites. And by all accounts as well. I never got to know him well, just here and there, but by all accounts, people who did know him, I think my brother-in-law, Doug McCoy, played cards with him a number of times, said he's just a great guy, says he's a tremendous guy. Jesse Bratton, good morning. Julio Reyes, buenos dias. Julio Reyes, a great runner, athlete. Julio Zambrano says Chicago Midway is a great airport to get stuck overnight. You know, and it happens so much more frequently now. I wish the airports like Atlanta would be designed better so that if you are stranded there, it's not a living hell. Let me see if I need to heat up my coffee. That may last a while. Hector Gomez, there you go. Jason, I got my coffee earlier this week, and you may have been tuning in. Maybe that's why you bring it up. Or was it last week? Shannon didn't get coffee. That's a horrible thing. I think that was last week. The days run all together for me. Very cool. Hector Gomez in the year 2000. Hector bought a car from Larry Keenan. Larry Keenan, Hector, and I know you know this, man. And God bless Don Harris. I got to get him back on the show. Don Harris continues to bang the drum. Larry Keenan's number 35 should be up in the rafters for the Spurs. Larry Keenan was a tremendous player, a tremendous Spur. I mean, God love Bruce Bowen and Avery Johnson. But if those dudes are up there, Larry Keenan should be up there. And again, Larry, that to me, that falls into the category of it drives me crazy when an athlete or any person in anything, Gary DeLon, who passed away, was while he was alive, he was inducted into the San Antonio Sports Hall of Fame appropriately, and he should have been. And he got that honor and enjoyed it and savored it while he was alive. Larry Keenan of the Spurs, who still lives in this town, should be in the rafters, should be honored. And it doesn't happen. And I'm just thrilled that Don Harris, news director at News 4 San Antonio, who was around to see Larry Keenan play, continues to bang that drum, although we don't know if it'll ever be effective. Yeah, known as Special K, but they also called him on back of his Spurs jersey. It said Mr. K back at the Hemisphere Arena. Very cool. Jason Paniagua on a plane with Sean Elliott in 2019. In, this would have been 79 or 80. I was at the Air Force Academy, so I was flying from San Antonio to Denver and then on to Colorado Springs. And on the plane was Doug Moe, who was then the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. And Doug Moe, that was back in the day when you would stretch before like all the requirements now where they want you to sit because they're worried about things like terrorism. But like in the back of the plane, just stretching, I had and he was standing, I was standing. I had like a 20-minute conversation with Doug Moe, who still lives in San Antonio, who was one of the nicest guys in the world too. There's Steve Duraco, who took the photo of me with Artis Gilmore in 1975 with a Polaroid camera. Speaking of Spurs, I'm wearing my 2003 Spurs hat, 2003 championship hat. I was thinking about this today. This hat, it's 2022. This hat is 22 minus 3, 19 years old. That's a 19-year-old cap. This cap can legally vote and should be able to legally drink. Because when I was 18, drinking age was 18. Of course, now it's 21. Hector Gomez says Larry Keenan is the nicest guy. Very cool. Jesse, I just saw this. Nobody knows. They're talking, but nobody knows. Is Major League Baseball coming back soon? I have a feeling, Jesse, that it will resolve itself like in March or April. You know, when the season's about to start or should start, or if they miss a couple of games or weeks, there's just too much money to be lost by too many people, players and owners, and all the ancillary people who work at stadiums and staff members. And I just think coming out of the pandemic, and the pandemic's still going on, by the way, people are still dying. So I always want to check myself when I say that, because we're not out of it, certainly. But having gone through the pandemic, I just think this is the wrong time to have an extended work stoppage for any major sport, and certainly Major League Baseball. So I don't think it will continue. I think cooler heads and smarter heads will prevail. Leo, in 1975, I was at a Wendy's in Tucson. While in line, a guy accidentally bumps into me. It was Sean Elliott. How cool is that? That's great. Jorge, I have believed that for so long, and I agree with you. And I go back to the San Antonio Commanders, and that was a startup league, the Alliance of American Football, and that was a team that didn't exist before, and players on the roster that most people didn't even know, and we still got 30,000 for most of those games in the Alamo Dome, half full, 30,000. You know, it holds like 65, so a little under half. A couple of times it went over that. I think if you gave them NFL football, I think this town and the Saints ordeal after Hurricane Katrina pretty much proved that when we packed the Alamo Dome for a pretty awful Saints team at the time. That was before the Saints were good. But yeah, Luisa, I agree with that too. You know, San Antonio FC people say we've got soccer here at San Antonio FC, but we need MLS soccer like Austin has. Here we come.
Now, Chris Duel.
You have made it to Wednesday. It is the midpoint of the week. It is all downhill from here. Lots of sports to talk about. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. We talk a lot of NFL football as God intended. We talk college football as God intended. And we also love other sports, so we talk about them. NBA, Spurs, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. He'll have the call tonight as the Spurs are onto their fifth game of the rodeo road trip at Oklahoma City. 1 hour from now, less than an hour, in fact, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, will join us. Always love having Bill on the show. Your chance to win $1,000 coming up in about 12 to 13 minutes. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Somebody wins $1,000 every hour on the 20s. And I think Shannon Salty Sweeney, I may be talking out of school, but often I talk before I'm absolutely sure of something, and that way you can correct me, or Dave can correct me, or one of our many listeners or viewers on the live video feed can correct me. But I think the Grand in Your Hand cash contest ends after this week. I think I've heard that. Dave OEHLER, Shannon, have you heard that?
That's correct. That's what I've heard.
That is correct.
You know more than me.
Your chances to win $1,000 are fleeting. I'm just saying. Take advantage while you can. Coming up later this hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. And Shannon, yesterday we were talking about Texan, although he gave up his Texan citizenship when he went to OU, Adrian Peterson. I'm telling you, Shannon, if whoever's running for governor, and it looks like it's going to be a race between the incumbent governor, Greg Abbott, and Beto O'Rourke, if two things. Number one, you want my vote. Number one, legalize cannabis. Come on. 20 other states. Why not? They'd be a great sponsor for the show, Shannon. We'd have a lot of fun. We'd have get-togethers with viewers and listeners, and, you know, so many things we could do. So there's that. Number two, any athlete who grows up in the state of Texas and excels in sports in high school that then chooses to go play for the Oklahoma Sooners will officially, by decree of the governor, lose their citizenship as a Texan. They can no longer legally call themselves Texans if they go to OU. Totally agree with that. And again, I'm not about party. If Governor Greg Abbott will stand for that, make it part of his platform, he'll have my vote. If Beto O'Rourke instead makes that part of his platform, he'll have my vote. I don't think I'm asking for too much, Shannon. I'm asking for weed legalized, and I'm asking for renouncing the citizenship of any turncoat like Dave OEHLER, who leaves Texas, but he's going to his hometown, St. Louis, so I'll let that slide. But if you're a Texan and you go play for Oklahoma, I'm sorry, you're not a Texan anymore.
Chris, it's not that simple. You know, I wish it was, but it's just not. There are other factors that come into. Some of those kids may only be getting offers from outside of Texas, or offers to actually play. So I can't knock kids for leaving. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you can leave. You just can't be if you go to Oklahoma across that Red River, you can go. You just know that you're renouncing your Texas citizenship. That's all. It's like Baker Mayfield. See ya. Adrian Peterson. See ya. Oh, no, I was going to do the Adrian Peterson story. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. We found out overnight, Shannon, we heard about the Adrian Peterson story, which was weird. He's apparently getting on a plane on Super Bowl Sunday at LA International Airport. There's some kind of an altercation that has been termed by some as domestic violence. He was with his woman. It was called it was a plane bound for Houston, Texas, where he should no longer be a citizen. It was bound from LA to Houston, and people on board the plane reported a verbal and a physical altercation between a male and a female suspect, a female victim, they called her. So airport police, LA police came and got Adrian Peterson off the plane. He was incarcerated in the LA County Pacific Division Jail, given a $50,000 bail and released later in the afternoon. That's a great way to spend your Super Bowl Sunday. But we learned yesterday that the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has decided not to charge Adrian Peterson in connection with that arrest Sunday at the airport. Makes you wonder, Shannon. Now, first of all, some jurisdictions now are not prosecuting as much nonviolent crime. And here there was a report of maybe some physical violence than as they used to. So either A, that might be at play, or B, maybe the reports. Because I think Adrian Peterson's, I don't know if it's his wife or his significant other. I mean, it is his significant other. I don't know if it was his wife or not. Did apparently say, hey, we just had an argument. So your one witness and your one victim, Adrian Peterson's woman, could have been his wife, I'm not sure, said, no, this was just an argument. So Adrian Peterson things could have gone a lot worse for him than apparently they have. Nonetheless, it's a crappy way to spend Super Bowl Sunday in jail for several hours.
Yeah, and especially after we talked about, he appeared on a couple of talk shows because of all the media frenzy that involves the Super Bowl, and was saying how he's still able to play. He's still ready if someone needs him. And then something like this, and obviously stories from his past that are a little similar get brought into the discussion. And I think that's why it was so believable for some to go ahead and say, oh, here it is happening one more time.
So we will see. I got a feeling that Adrian Peterson is done, although he wants to play again. He's done in the NFL. He was a prolific runner in the NFL. And I do credit him here, Shannon. I mean, he did go to Oklahoma, so we, think less of him. But he is card carrying, said he was always a Cowboys fan. He even talked at one point to Jerry Jones during his career and said, make me a Cowboy. I want to be a Cowboy. I've always wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy. So there are some redeeming qualities for Adrian Peterson. We're willing to overlook a few things here and there. If you're a Cowboys fan, Adrian Peterson, at least Adrian, Shannon, you and I and Adrian Peterson, we have that in common. So there's that. And you know what? If we could just jettison Zeke, we'd probably get similar production out of Adrian Peterson right now at a lot less money. Maybe it's not such a bad idea. Maybe we can reinstate him as a Texas citizen if he plays for the Cowboys and performs well.
Do you want him as a Cowboy, though? Like, do you really want him as a Cowboy?
If he could produce, and, Zeke is not exactly running the ball like the Zeke we once knew. So,
yeah. I mean, but I just don't know that he can. And I don't think he's as good of a blocker as Zeke was last year to help in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, sight unseen, if you ask most football experts right now at this moment, who's a better running back, Ezekiel Elliott or Adrian Peterson? Obviously, because of age, you would say Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, Adrian Peterson in his prime, that might have been something to consider. So Marcus Valdespino on the live video feed writes, Ezekiel Elliott is not going anywhere. He gained over 1,000 yards with 12 touchdowns, and he picks up blitzers like no other running back in the NFL game. Wow, Marcus, are you his agent? That's quite a glowing review of Ezekiel Elliott. Why is it that my experience, Shannon, just play to play, when Ezekiel Elliott got the football, running the foot, and he may have added the 12 touchdowns and the 1,000 yards. My feeling is, I just remember being disappointed. It's like, oh, okay, there's 2 yards. Oh, there's 3 yards. Oh, there's a loss of 2. Oh, there's no gain. A lot of those for Ezekiel Elliott last year.
Yeah, I think also, Tony Pollard really stepped it up last season. And so by comparison, there were plenty of moments and plenty of games this season where like, what? Just give it to Tony Pollard. Look at his average so far this game versus Zeke. And you wonder, like, because of his relationship with Dak, if he were to go elsewhere, would he pick up those blitzes the same way he's been doing it for Dak, especially Dak this season? He's coming back from that ankle injury, knowing how important it is that he stays as untouched as possible. I don't think so. It's
a great question. It's a great, and you've got to wonder, does he have extra commitment? In this case, picking up blitzes to try to protect Dak because of their relationship. Because I would think, if he kind of dogs it, and does not give full effort and pick up a blitz and block and keep Dak as safe as possible in that pocket, I imagine Dak would give him an earful as well. So all great questions. And we've gone through, this is day 3 of football withdrawals, Shannon, and there's been Adrian Peterson stories. There's been Tom Brady stories, Aaron Rodgers stories. A guy who usually inserts the Cowboys into a lot of the news cycle because he's smart this way, Jerry Jones. I haven't heard Jerry, here we made it to Wednesday, midway through the week. I haven't heard Jerry say anything outstanding or remarkable or anything that would generate headlines yet. Of course, the morning is young on this Wednesday, and he may very well do so here before too long. But interesting that Jerry has been relatively quiet. Maybe his watching the Super Bowl, made him a little somber. Could be.
Is he on his boat? Maybe he's on his boat.
Good
And
question.
maybe people took away his
he might be on
electronic
his boat.
toys.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, Shannon, we've got numbers on how many people watched the Super Bowl. I mean, I can't understand. I mean, it's the one event in America. This is why we talk about the national holiday should be the day after. I mean, it's even if you're not into football, you're probably watching the Super Bowl. What do we know about the number of people who tuned in?
Well, the NBC broadcast alone had 101.1 million viewers. There's, you tack on a couple extra million for those who watched on streaming platforms. We were one of them. We watched on Peacock. Actually, we streamed it there. But you mentioned all these people watch the game, right? I mean, and a lot of them are people who don't watch during the regular season. They're just not even football fans, but they know that is something that's going to be talked about for a week. That's the thing that everyone's going to be focused on. And so you want to be part of the conversation, whether it is about the commercials, whether it is about the halftime show, whether it's about, any of the other performances or things that may be shown in the stands. There's so much more than just the game. People just love to be a part of it in some way because so many people already are. So it makes sense. And I don't know. I know it was higher than last year. I don't know where it ranks amongst all of the Super Bowls, but I would imagine that it's pretty high, surpassing that 100 million mark.
Yeah. And my goodness, last year's Super Bowl, you had Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And all of the supporting cast. You had a lot of star power there. Granted, Joe Burrow, people dug him, but that kind of manifested itself as the playoffs progressed. It seemed like week after week in the playoffs, the love for Joe Burrow seemed to grow. So for this Super Bowl to out distance ratings wise and viewer wise last year's Super Bowl with Joe Burrow versus Matthew Stafford and the Cincinnati Bengals versus the LA Rams. That's pretty remarkable. Right now, 7:20. We're going to take a quick timeout, try to get you $1,000. Somebody's going to win $1,000 as Dave Ayler confirmed. This is going to end after this week, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. So your final opportunities to try to grab that $1,000. You're going to get a keyword right now, take it to one of the websites or both, and you're in the running for $1,000. Here's the keyword.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Win. That's win. Enter it on our station website now.
Win is the keyword. You can take it to either or both websites, am1300thezone.com and or ticket760.com. Somebody wins $1,000 right now. Somebody wins $1,000 on the 20s all day long until 6:20 tonight. Shannon and I recommend you go to both websites. It makes sense. You double your chances to win. Now, Shannon, you mentioned you watched the Super Bowl on Peacock. Couple of questions there. Number one, how was that? Was it different at all? Number two, was that Peacock Premium? Which I got Peacock. I downloaded it onto my smart TV, but I didn't want to pay for it's like, I don't want to pay NBC and pay for the upgrade. So did you pay for Peacock Premium and what was that experience like?
For starters, not my account, not my TV. So I'm not exactly sure, but I do believe it was a premium account. And the broadcast, I mean, it was the NBC broadcast. Peacock is an NBC platform. So we got all of the same stuff. We got all the commercials. We got everything. And we had it on all day from the pre-game to the pregame to the actual game, the main event. And it worked really well. Every now and then, or earlier in the day, I felt like there were maybe a couple glitches here and there, like it was loading. But during the game, it was just fine, just as great quality. So I don't know. I'm kind of at a point now, Chris, where I'm paying for cable because I need the live sports. But there's so many other options now to watch live sports.
Yeah.
I haven't sat down to do the math of, okay, if I pay for this app and this app, where am I? Is it, I don't want to have to like even fuss with taking the cable box back to the provider. Like that alone just sounds like a huge hassle. But man, I might be joining the cut cable club here soon. I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
I know so many people who have. I'm not there yet, but so much of what, and you're right. If it weren't for live sports,
yeah, I would have done it years ago.
You and I love it, and we talk about it for a living, so we need to see it. But so much other than sports, so much of what I watch is on Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, which has NFL football as well. So it's a dilemma. And man, if I'm a cable TV executive, I am sweating it, and I'm sure their revenue must be falling. I see on our live video feed an interesting question that I haven't thought through yet, Shannon. We've talked about it, the USFL coming this spring, the resurrection of the USFL, United States Football League. It existed back in the day, in the 80s. Donald Trump owned the New Jersey Generals back in the day. There was a San Antonio team at one time called the San Antonio Gunslingers, quarterbacked by one Rick Neuheisel out of UCLA. So Marcus Valdespino says the closest team to Austin and San Antonio will be the Houston Gamblers. Now, back in the day, Jim Kelly, before he became a Buffalo Bills quarterback in the old USFL, was the quarterback of the Houston Gamblers. Because that's the Texas team in the USFL, Shannon, does that mean you and I should be fans of the Houston Gamblers when the USFL starts up here in a couple months?
In my heart of hearts and in all honesty, it's kind of like the hashtag no new friends. I'm not in the market for new teams right now. It's not in the market. I'll watch it. I'll pay attention to it
for one though.
But I just find it hard to believe that the league's gonna make it. Like, prove it to me. Like, have a second, third season before I like truly become invested in something that is likely to just vanish before our eyes, like so many before it.
See, I go all in. It's like falling in love. You could get your heart broke, but you gotta. It's like if love and football is love. And it's like, this is, by the way, I just went to the USFL website, which is theusfl.com is the official website. They got a countdown clock. So Shannon, just so you know, so we can synchronize our calendars, 58 days, 15 hours, 34 minutes, 39 seconds till the USFL. So I'm looking at the team. So you got the Houston Gamblers, the New Orleans Breakers, the Tampa Bay Bandits, the Birmingham Stallions, the Pittsburgh Maulers, the Philadelphia Stars, the New Jersey Generals. I think Trump fans, even though he doesn't own them anymore, they should all be all in on the New Jersey Generals. And you've got the Michigan Panthers. Now, I do have a little angst, Shannon. I think San Antonio got screwed. The San Antonio Gunslingers should be one of the teams in the USFL. I'm a little bummed that once again, we can give you 30,000 fans for the Commanders of the Alliance of American Football, and you can't give San Antonio and or Austin a team in the USFL. I'm a little so that's where I will probably wind up rooting for the Houston Gamblers just because unlike you, it's like I'm going to pick one and go, that's my team. But I'm a little bummed. I got issues that there's not a San Antonio or an Austin team in the USFL.
You said 58 days. Do you have a specific date? Because I didn't math that very well when you gave the countdown.
Let me see if they have a date here on the site. Gear. They're selling gear. USFL. I may buy some of that on my vacation here in the next couple of days. I don't. Let me click. No. Oh, yeah, I do have a date. April 16th. April 16th, 2022.
See, that's Easter.
Kickoff on April. So
that's Easter weekend. Can't do it. Can't make it.
See, I think that's perfect though. The resurrection, Easter. I think the resurrection of U.S. So go to church on Easter Sunday, celebrate Easter, and then say, hey man, not only is the big guy back, but football is back. And I think football is back because the big guy came back, and the big guy wants us to have football year round. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm just saying. I got a feeling. Yeah, I often speak for Tom Landry, a football god in football heaven. I take that liberty. All right, Shannon. Speaking of liberty, we will be liberated from our 24-hour withdrawals from the Salty Shakedown. Your Wednesday edition of Shannon's Salty Shakedown is moments away, just after the break. Before that, we'll give you sports birthdays and sports history. Coming up at the top of the hour, you know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs on a Spurs game day, game night, as tonight the Spurs game number 5 of the rodeo road trip. Spurs in Oklahoma City. If the Spurs win, they go 3-2 on the rodeo road trip. Better than 500 headed into the NBA All-Star game. I kind of like it. I got a feeling they're going to win tonight. We'll talk to Bill about that coming up. Dave OEHLER is your Soundscape stylist. Lots coming at you between now and 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Oh, I was on mute. I'm sorry. I had said I agree with Chris. We need to be all in on the USFL. I think that was a great post from Jason. Eggs and football are shaped similarly for Easter, kickoff of the USFL. Good morning, O.M. Garcia. See, and Marcus, dude, that's a great marketing idea. Bring those guys back on the telecasts and into the stadiums. They need to bring Jim Kelly back for one game so he can sign autographs and talk to the fans. I love that idea. I hope the USFL is developing ideas like that as well. That's a brilliant idea. O.M. Garcia says, go Spurs, go. Ralph Balderas, good morning, sir. All right. I am going to heat my coffee. I had some dreams. They were clouds in my coffee. Clouds in my coffee. And you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. Don't you? Don't you now? By the way, Carly Simon is a finalist for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I love Carly Simon. I love her former husband, James Taylor. And I love their kid, Ben Taylor, who put out some very good albums that I own. I love the whole family. Oh, I'll be right back. Woo! Woo! I downloaded Peacock, but I do not have premium. There's some free programming. So in other words, if you wanted to watch some series that are there, they'll give you like episode 1, but if you want to watch other episodes, you got to pay for them. Correct. Yeah. Here we go.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Welcome in. The Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs on a game day / game night. He'll join us at the top of the hour. Always lots to talk about with Bill. In addition to Spurs, probably talk a little NFL, Super Bowl, Texas Longhorns, and Bill grew up in Philadelphia. He has been a keen observer, maybe even a fan of the Philadelphia 76ers to this day. How does he feel about James Harden becoming a part of that team? And James Harden, we played you some audio from him earlier in the show, says the goal is a championship. Will James Harden be the missing piece for the Philadelphia 76ers? One of the many things we'll talk about with Bill Schoening coming up at the top of the hour. Another shot at winning $1,000 coming at 8:20 on the 20s all day long until 6:20 tonight. Your chance to win $1,000. Somebody wins every hour. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. It's a beautiful thing, as is Shannon's Salty Shakedown, which is now moments away. But first, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? 1970, Smokin' Joe Frazier with a TKO knocks out, technical knockout of Jimmy Ellis in 5 rounds to take the heavyweight boxing title. Now, of course, that title was vacated by Muhammad Ali when he refused induction into military service, drafted to go to Vietnam. Ali would face Frazier in 1971 at Madison Square Garden. Frazier would win that one in a 15-round decision. On this day in 1972, Wilt Chamberlain of the Los Angeles Lakers became the first player in NBA history to reach the 30,000-point mark during a 110-109 loss to the Phoenix Suns. On this day in 1999, the Juice, O.J. Simpson's 1968 Heisman Trophy was sold for $230,000 to help settle a $33.5 million civil judgment against O.J. for the deaths of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman. Wonder where that Heisman is now. I don't know who got it for $230,000. That is a tainted Heisman, given what O.J. went on to do. And finally, this day in 2020, the NBA All-Star Game was at the United Center in Chicago. Team LeBron beat Team Giannis 157-155. The MVP of that NBA All-Star Game won Kawhi Leonard of the LA Clippers. Notice how his name just floats off my tongue now, and I don't say anything mean. I just say, hey, man, Kawhi Leonard was the MVP of the 2020 NBA All-Star Game. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1959, tennis player, guy with some anger issues, John McEnroe. John McEnroe won the U.S. Open 79-81, and in 1984, he won Wimbledon in 1981, 1983, and 1984. I remember just great tennis matches between McEnroe and Bjorn Borg back in the day, back in the 80s. I didn't know this. John McEnroe was born in Wiesbaden, Germany. Never knew that. Born on this day in 1961, American basketball head coach and part of the Greg Popovich coaching tree, Brett Brown. Coached the Sixers from 2013 to 2019. He coached the Australian men's national team. Brett Brown was born in South Portland, Maine. And finally, born on this day in 1972, he is now 50 years old. The Bus, Jerome Bettis, Hall of Fame NFL running back and Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bus, Jerome Bettis, was born in Detroit, Michigan. Thems be your sports birthdays and your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your midweek salty shakedown.
All right, Chris. Mr. Tom Brady continues to be a part of the conversation. The will he, the won't he. But he'll remain part of the conversation, I think, for years to come just because of what he did during his time playing. And thanks to a new documentary that's been announced for Apple TV Plus, a 10-part series covering the Patriots' kind of 20-year run with Brady, Belichick, and Kraft. It's going to be called The Dynasty. Producing it is one Mr. Ron Howard along with NFL Films. So you know it's going to be great. It's going to include interviews from former players and former opponents, people within the organization, people from outside the organization. But it is interesting. There's no release date yet, but with this conversation of will he come back or won't he and where might he play, what if something gets revealed about the Patriots that Tom maybe knew or was a part of that doesn't shed that great of a light on the organization? Now, I don't know how much hand the organization has, similar to Michael Jordan, right? That series that everyone loved, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan had a say in every little thing that went in it. So obviously it painted worse pictures for his teammates and their families than it did for Michael Jordan. So you would think that maybe they would avoid some of that. But given that that's just really part of the Patriots story and part of that run, it'd be hard to avoid that. I think that they would get a lot of scrutiny for not talking about all of the scandals that took place, whether it be Deflategate or the video recordings of other teams' practices or anything else that's gone on, like some of Kraft's, outside extracurricular activities that take place. So that's something to keep an eye out on. But do you think that this could have a sway in a potential Tom Brady return, given what we might find out during this 10-part documentary entitled The Dynasty?
It's a great question. And yeah, if they're going to be objective, they need to cover those issues that you just outlined. I do have Apple TV Plus, so I'm excited. I'll get to watch that. And, we know to this day, Brady has a lot of angst over the way he was treated and disregarded by Bill Belichick. I would imagine if Brady's going to be candid, he'll talk about what that relationship was like, and that won't paint the hoodie in a very good light. So yeah, going to be fascinating. And again, Brady, the hype machine, watch this thing drop just about the time that he says, I'm coming back. It could happen. Be ready for anything with Tom Brady.
All right. Now, as we know, because we discussed it yesterday, the Rams are holding their parade today for their Super Bowl victory. A few of them did hit up Disneyland to enjoy a parade there just the other day. But today's the big one. It's the one for the city. It's the one for the entire team. They'll carry the trophy. It'll be interesting to see just how LA does it, especially as we know, because LeBron reminded us they did not get a parade for the Lakers championship or the Dodgers championship. Now, obviously, a huge piece of LA that is iconic to those who live there and to those who visit is the Hollywood sign. And people like to mess with it from time to time. Most recently, I think the Hollyweed sign made a lot of headlines. A lot of people had fun with that. A lot of people didn't have fun with that. A lot of people really did not like it. A lot of older people really did not like it. But interesting that sign came up more quickly than the current sign that they're trying to makeshift out of the Hollywood sign. They're trying to make it say Rams House, Chris. But as of yesterday evening, again, the parade is today, later this morning, it says Rally House, RALLYOUSE. It's not finished. It didn't look close to being finished. By the way, this isn't just some like stoner kids that are going up there trying to make something happen. LA, the city, as well as the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce and the Rams have approved this. They're the ones trying to help to work to get it done. But because it's taking so long, those that live around the area are upset that all this commotion is going on because for whatever reason, it's just been a struggle for them to get this done. You'd think with all three parties heavily involved by saying, yes, go ahead, do it, it'll be great, that they'd have it done by now. But instead, it's like this. So what are your bets today, Chris? The parade is going to be later today. They're probably going to show that Hollywood sign at some point. Do you think it will say Rams House or will it still be in disarray?
Boy, it sure does sound like it's going to be tough to pull it off in time for the parade. But I'm going to say it's a special time. Somebody's going to get it done. I'm going to bet on it saying Rams House. And oh, by the way, the last time there was a Super Bowl parade in Los Angeles, I was there.
Ooh.
It was 1984, and the LA Raiders, led by Marcus Allen, won the Super Bowl. And it wound up at City Hall, where there was a stage, and all the Raiders, including Marcus Allen, spoke to the crowd. So I was one of the Los Angelinos in the crowd as a USC student in 1984 for the Raiders, LA Raiders Super Bowl parade. So it's been a while since then.
It'll be fun to watch. I'm not sure on the exact time, but I'm sure I'll have it on in the background today because you never know. I mean, remember the boat parade that we had last year? Tom Brady, drunk as a skunk, coming off that boat, tossing the Lombardi trophy from one boat to another. The stories that can come from these parades are always exceptional. Finally today, Chris, we talked about a little earlier, Texas was in Norman last night. Texas men's basketball took on the Oklahoma Sooners. It was a game that went to overtime. Texas ultimately ended up getting the win 80-78. But something else happened. It happened after the game. Chris Beard was walking off to the arena tunnel when he heard something from his left side, and it seemed to be a student or a student-aged man yelling at Chris Beard, calling him a traitor. If you want to see that video, we've got it on our blog post, Chris Duel page at both Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone, as well as our social media. I've got the video up on mine as well at Shannon B. Sweeney. But the kid, he called Chris Beard a traitor. You see Chris Beard take a couple steps, and then Chris Beard turns around and goes over to the kid very calmly. You know, it's not like he rushed him. And then he shared some words, again, looked very calm. But he did exchange some words. We don't know what was said. I really hope that somehow that gets revealed. Chris, what do you think he said? And two, an Oklahoma fan referring, I get it. Like you're still upset about your own traitor leaving you, but this is an AB conversation, and we'll see you somewhere else because that's not your fight, buddy.
No, exactly. I wouldn't like it, but you could see this happening in Lubbock when the Longhorns were there recently to take on Texas Tech. I do love that Chris Beard went right up to the kid because so many people just behave so badly, and so many people are used to being jerks on Twitter and on social media. And guess what, dude? This is real life. You just try to yell something nasty at Chris Beard, and guess what? He turned around and came right to you to have a conversation. I'm with you. I would love to hear what he had to say. I imagine, and you point out Chris Beard was cool, calm, and collected having the conversation. It was probably something very insightful, and I hope that this mean-spirited Oklahoma student / fan maybe learned something about Chris Beard, about human nature, and as a Longhorn fan, and Shannon, you as a Longhorn alum, I'm glad that Chris Beard displayed class here in this exchange, which clearly the Oklahoma partisan did not.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris, because a lot of Texas haters are bringing up other instances when coaches have been in hostile environments and things are getting yelled at them and saying, they never even reacted. They just acted like it didn't happen. They just went about their business. Chris Beard has done that. I mean, we saw what happened in Lubbock just a few weeks ago. But this was, clearly one person yelling it out, right? So it made it easier for him to identify. And again, he didn't bum rush the kid. He just went over there and told him something. And now we don't know what he said. But given how he handled it, I think it's totally fine and not really fair to say, well, other coaches wouldn't even engage in the situation. But what do you think about him engaging in the first place?
I like it. He's a human being. And you're going to yell something at a human being walking off a court. Be ready to get a reaction from that human being. So A, Shannon, I like that he engaged. B, I like that he engaged calmly with dignity and with class. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to yell something nasty, prepare for that other human being that you're trying to insult to maybe come up to you and ask you, what's your motivation? Why are you behaving this way? So no, I don't. And I think anybody criticizing Chris Beard for this is just looking for a reason to criticize him. I think they're probably predisposed not to like Texas and not to like Chris Beard. I think it was the right thing to do for Chris Beard. And again, I pray and hopefully a reporter will ask him specifically, and hopefully he'll answer the question with what he told that guy. It's going to be fascinating to hear what that conversation was like.
Well, and so nice of you to, call him a traitor after your team just lost on your home floor to Texas and Coach Chris Beard. Hook 'em, and that is today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown. And if you're just waking up and you don't know the final score last night, in overtime, Texas beat OU 80-78. And that makes it all the more ridiculous, Shannon. Like, first of all, it's a Texas Tech issue. It's not your issue. You bring up a great point that Lincoln Riley leaving OU may have caused a lot of anger among the Oklahoma partisans, but still, nonetheless, that's got nothing to do with Chris Beard either. So for you to act out and be an idiot fan after your team loses, and granted, it wouldn't have been justified if Oklahoma won the game either, but for you to do this after your team loses makes you look even more pathetic and desperate, I believe.
Absolutely. Dude, and it'll continue to happen there sooner. So that part of it wasn't that surprising. Just given the circumstances and their own dealings with Lincoln Riley, it just, look at yourself, bro. Look at your own situation right now.
Yeah. And again, Shannon, I brought this up earlier. I really believe that either or both candidates for governor of Texas, this is just another reason. If you go to Oklahoma as an athlete, I'm willing to allow, Dylan Emery, Andy Everett, they live in Texas. They're friends of ours. They're friends of the show. I'm willing to allow them Texas citizenship. But if you're an athlete and you go to Oklahoma and look at the behavior here, you need to, we need to make a list and check it twice. And just say everybody on this list has been naughty, not nice. You went to Oklahoma. You left your home state of Texas. You could have played for the Longhorns. You could have played for Texas Tech. You chose not to. You're a turncoat. I'm not talking to you, Dave OEHLER, because you're going home. See, Dave OEHLER is leaving us and going to St. Louis. He's going home. Your home is in Oklahoma, and you lived in Texas and went to okay. I grant you the waiver, but I'm just saying, little purple haze. I'm wearing purple today. See, are you playing Purple Haze because I'm wearing purple, Dave OEHLER?
That's exactly why I played it.
Woo! See, everything is connected. Everything is. That's why we'll miss him. He's on top of all the Soundscape styling. Coming up, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Mr. Bill Schoening. That'd be, as a longtime Longhorns voice, Shannon, we should ask Bill Schoening his thoughts about Chris Beard engaging with that heckler. So lots to talk about with Bill Schoening. He will join us right after the top of the hour. Sports update coming your way at the top of the hour, and a chance to win $1,000 at 8:20. Don't go anywhere. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Ralph Balderas, good morning. Lucinda Sullivan with the Sunshine Coffee. And is that an hourglass next to it, or is that just a cup of coffee from Straight Up? Jason, so Vegas steals our sports franchises, and St. Louis steals our Soundscape stylists. Plural, yes. Scott Manziera and now Dave OEHLER. It's just wrong. It's just wrong, St. Louis. I'm just saying. All right, let me check something here. Thank you, Ralph Balderas, for the thumbs up. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Do I have time? I need to edit something. And I may or may not have time. Or I might. Let's see here. There it is. Let's take a look at this.
Texted Scott Manziera, and apparently he was at the sports station there at ESPN. He worked with one of the guys that I'm going to be working with.
Amazing.
The guy I'm going to be working with, he was working at that country station, WIL.
That is crazy. Small world. Very cool.
Yeah, that's how it fits in, so incestuous that
Yeah.
you either know somebody or somebody that knows you, or somebody that he knows somebody that knows you.
Yeah. We might have to, if we figure out your last show with me, assuming we might have to like get Scott Manziera on with you and have a little St. Louis talk as we ship you out the door. Our second guy we lose to St. Louis. Now, Scott Manziera went to St. Louis, and within months, father to child. So you better be careful. I'm just saying, watch what you do. Watch what you do, man. So that's 21. This is going to be B. Bill Schoening getting ready to join us. He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs and always an outstanding guest. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wow, that one's long. What the heck happened there? Dave Ayler calling Bill Schoening. See if I can find our Bill Schoening photo. There he is. Ralph, I did not see that yet. I'm going to have to go look. Ralph Balderas, if you ever get a chance, I posted a 4-pound taco yesterday on Facebook that my son and I tried to eat in under 10 minutes from Chacho's. One more time? Oh, okay, thanks. That's how you celebrate Taco Tuesday, Ralph.
Night divides the day. Try to run.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Wednesday, February 16th. It is midweek, and it is not just Wednesday, it is Spurs Day, as the San Antonio Spurs will be in Oklahoma City tonight for game number 5 of the rodeo road trip. Spurs are 2-2 on this rodeo road trip. They've also won 3 of their last 5, if you're counting, which is pretty darn good. And a win tonight would be 3-2 on the rodeo road trip, headed into the All-Star break, which I think would be a pretty darn good 5 games of the rodeo road trip, with 3 to play on the other side of the rodeo road trip. We love talking with Bill Schoening. He is the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. He'll have the call tonight. Tip off just after 7 o'clock. Bill's pregame Spurs radio game night on 1200 WOAI out of San Antonio and across the Spurs radio network tonight, 6:30 for pregame. Bill Schoening, how are you this morning?
Very good. Very good to be with you. It's Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. I don't know what else I would do. I go, even during the summer. Didn't we do a lot during the summer last year?
We did.
I remember, I got up one morning. I was on vacation up on the East Coast, and I woke up and it's like, man, it's Wednesday at 8. I got to be on with Chris, and it was 8 Eastern, so it was only 7 Central. So I've got an hour. So it just didn't feel right on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock if I'm not visiting with you.
Well, and we do appreciate it. You've been so generous with your time, and I mean, especially on a game night, it's really, really exceptional for us. We really enjoy it. And even though, Bill, in Chicago, Spurs' most recent game a couple of nights ago, even though they lost that game, I mean, they were in it until the fourth quarter. They were up. I wrote it down. There was 8:08 left in regulation when DeMar DeRozan hit like a driving layup to give the Bulls the lead. So the Spurs were leading, up until about the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. They were playing well. As you had the call, they had a couple of key turnovers down the stretch, a blocked shot down the stretch. I think Chicago, a 16-6 run to close out the game. So they didn't finish, but, they played well. They had an opportunity to go, 3-1 on the rodeo road trip. They're now 2-2. But overall, you look at the last 5 games, I think this team is playing pretty darn well.
Well, they had a 6-point lead going into the fourth quarter of that ball game. And after the game, the first thing that Coach Popovich said was good effort, poor execution. I don't think that they executed the way they wanted to, obviously, down the stretch, and especially defensively against DeMar DeRozan, because I think everybody in the building knew that DeMar was going to get the ball most of the fourth quarter, and he torched the Spurs. He went 8 of 9 and scored 19 points in that fourth quarter, and that made it difficult because he went on one of those runs himself almost, and finished with 40, and he's on quite a tear. He's putting up numbers that only Michael Jordan has done in franchise history. So hats off to DeMar. But it's an indication that the team is getting close, but not there yet. They haven't figured out quite how to finish games consistently. And I think that's one of the next steps for this young team. And obviously, when you trade a veteran like Derek White for future assets, and the guy that's replacing Derek White is Devin Vassell, who's been playing very well. He's only in his second year, but he's a young player. Josh Primo getting some of those minutes, very young player. So, these guys need to learn and grow and get better with experience, and I think they're doing exactly that.
Bill, with tonight's game against the Thunder, the Spurs will close out the first half of the season, as their next game won't be until February 25th with the All-Star break coming up. What can Spurs fans expect or hope to see against a Thunder team that is not playing up to their level of expectation this season?
Well, the Thunder, they've had some injuries as well. Two of their best guys are out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a very good point guard, and Luguentz Dort, who has really kind of come on the scene for them and had solid games both offensively and defensively. So they're not quite there. They had a losing streak before they came up with a big win in New York the other night. And the player that I really am intrigued to watch for them is Josh Giddey, who's a young guy from Australia. He's only 19 years of age. He had a triple-double the other night against New York. In fact, he's had back-to-back triple-doubles, the youngest player in NBA history ever to achieve that. And, of course, we're seeing DeJounte Murray break through with all these different milestones. And the first time it's been done in quite some time with all his triple-doubles, especially with the fact that he's rebounding the ball so well. So I think that we'll see a good matchup there between Giddey and Murray tonight.
Yeah, Bill, you mentioned Josh Giddey, and one of my assignments when I work with you on the Spurs broadcast is I give you scores from time to time from around the league. And it seems like a lot lately when I give you an Oklahoma City Thunder score, Josh Giddey is often the guy putting up a lot of points for them. So he'll be fascinating to keep an eye on tonight. You talked about the trade that sent Derek White to the Boston Celtics and some new Spurs now in town. Among them, Romeo Langford, Josh Richardson, and Tomas Satoransky. Of those three, Bill, is there one of those that you think might have a better chance of making an impact in the coming games this season for the Spurs?
Well, it's hard to tell at this point because they just got those guys. And I asked Becky Hammond the other night in postgame when we might see some of these players. And she said, you might want to ask Coach Greg Popovich about that. But Pop did say prior to the Chicago game, and those guys were in with the Spurs in Chicago, Langford and also Richardson. Richardson is a 40% three-point shooter. So out of those three guys, I would think, anyway, that Richardson, who's one of the older guys, he's 28, Satoransky is 30, and Langford's only 22. But of those guys, at least for this season, I would think that with his ability to shoot threes, Richardson might be the guy that could get some playing time there because the Spurs could use some three-point shooting off the bench. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know that we're going to see any of those guys tonight. I think that they still want to get those guys used to the system. Maybe they had a chance now to acclimate a little bit more, and we might see them tonight. But I would think that we'll probably see them toward the back end of the season.
Well, it is the All-Star break coming up this weekend. So, Bill, I just want to know, what are you doing with your time? Because we've got Chris who's taken a little vacation. Are you like me? Do you completely disconnect as much as possible from everything? Or do you think you'll tune in? Do you have anything fun planned? Or are you just going to soak it all up as if you're still working through this All-Star break?
You're not going to believe this, Shannon, but I think I'm working some college baseball games this year. So, what does the guy do on his day off? Oh, he works another game, right? So I've had a chance to do some stuff for Texas State and for UTSA. I love college baseball. Chris knows that's part of my background. I did the Longhorns for 12 years, Longhorn baseball, and before that I did some Sam Houston State baseball. So I love college baseball, always have, and it looks like knock on wood, I'll have the opportunity here to work a few games. I might even work some games this weekend, so we'll see. But that's probably what I'm going to end up doing on my All-Star break is calling some college baseball. So everybody's got their own thing. And I'll also listen to some music. I don't have anything specific planned right now, but I know at least one night during the break, I'm going to run down to my favorite place in South Austin, the Saxon Pub, and go listen to some singer-songwriters or whoever's playing. I don't have any specific plans, but I know that music will be part of it.
Bill, you're like Troy Polamalu in those Head and Shoulders commercials. I'm always working. They need to put you in those commercials. I'm Bill Schoen. I'm always working. I'm doing college baseball now. Back to the NBA for a second. Shannon mentioned the All-Star break is coming yesterday. We see a press conference in Philadelphia. James Harden is introduced to the Philadelphia media, and our listeners know you're a Philly guy. You grew up in Philly. You've paid close attention to Philadelphia sports teams, including the Philadelphia 76ers. As a guy who grew up as a Sixers fan, and James Harden talked a lot. I mean, a lot of what he said yesterday, he said, I'm here to win a championship. That's what we're here to do. We want to win one this year and in future years. Do you think he might be the missing piece for Philadelphia, or might it be what we've seen pretty much everywhere else he's gone? It just didn't work out.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. I think Doc Rivers has a lot of work to do to try to get everybody on the same page in a short amount of time. Now, they'll have some time, of course. We've talked about the Eastern Conference and how everybody's kind of, bundled up real close to the top. So there's not a lot of separation there between some of these teams. But Harden's a veteran player. He knows how to play. If he and Embiid can get on the same page with Tobias Harris, who I think is a very, very important player on that ball club, the East, as we talked about before, is wide open. So a team that gets hot could certainly, make a run in the Eastern Conference. I think the West, you've got some strong teams, then you've got some teams trying to vie for that spot. Where, you got, Phoenix basically right now is really, really playing well. But a lot of teams in the East are very close together. So, depending on injuries and that sort of thing. But I think to answer your question, Chris, if they can work out a chemistry between Embiid and Harden, I think that's going to be the most important relationship. And maybe the relationship between Doc Rivers and Harden will also be pretty important. But they've got the talent. I think that they've got enough guys. But, Philly has not done a great job through the years of drafting. And so now they've got to rely on free agency and rely on deals like this. So it's a shame that Ben Simmons decided he didn't want to play there anymore and kind of held the Sixers hostage all season. But now at least they can turn the page and see if this chapter will work, and we'll see what happens.
During that press conference, Bill, James Harden made note that the 76ers were his first choice. That Brooklyn wasn't really where he intended to end up when he made the move from Houston. I have a hard time believing that, with given the place where he is in his career right now. He still doesn't have a ring. Calling him a ring chaser, I'm totally cool with it. That seemed like the great landing spot. Guys he's played with before, a team that seemed to be in prime position, he would just be the icing on the cake. So I don't really believe him when he says that the 76ers were always the first choice. Your thoughts on those comments from James?
Chemistry is a real important thing. And in basketball, especially, we only got 5 guys. So you have to have that symmetry. And I don't know that that's always been the case with James Harden and his teammates. So that's why I'm emphasizing the importance of his relationship with Joel Embiid and with Doc Rivers going into this whole situation, because, it's out there. It's championship or bust. There's only one goal for that team right now, and that's a championship. So they need to make the run. So they've got it all out on the table right now. So whether James Harden wanted to go to Philly before he wanted to go to Brooklyn, who knows? But the important thing now is that they do all they can to try to get a title. Those are tough fans in Philly, and if they think that you're loafing, they'll get on you. So I can see if it doesn't go well early, where James could be hearing some boo birds, and they're tough fans there. So they expect them to play well. They expect them to play hard. And now if they do well, they pack the place. Those fans are loyal. They might boo, but they'll be there. Same thing with the Eagles fans. They may not be very happy, and they may voice their displeasure, but they are there. They are passionate. And so hopefully James will have the same kind of passion that those fans do, and we'll see them make a run in the Eastern Conference.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, NBA All-Star Weekend, as we've been talking about, coming up this weekend. DeJounte Murray added as an NBA All-Star now. What do you think that does for him as a player now, to experience that, to be around the ultimate peers in the NBA, to see a Kevin Durant, to see a LeBron James, to be a part of the best of the best? Do you think, as great as he's played, do you think maybe this elevates his career even higher, just the way he approaches things, just to know that, I'm now in this fraternity?
Yeah, I do, Chris. I think it's a validation of all the hard work he's put in, all the good things he's done for the organization. Remember, he came in as a late first-round draft pick. He had to work his way up, and then he got that devastating knee injury. He had to work extremely hard to come back from that, and he has become a team leader. He's the guy that organizes the off-season workouts and gets guys in the gym for summer games. And, I think that all the different things he's done for the organization and to try to make sure that everybody's on the right page and accountable, he's become a true leader. And I think the fact that he's made the All-Star team, like I said, validates all the hard work he's done. And you see other players around the league giving him a lot of respect. There's a lot of quotes from other All-Stars saying, I would definitely vote for DeJounte. I think DeJounte deserves it. Steve Kerr, other coaches feel the same way. Because now when you game plan for San Antonio, the number one thing on the list is trying to figure out what to do with DeJounte Murray.
Talking hoops with Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to pause real quick because we do this each day on the Chris Duel Show at this time. 8:20, we've got your keyword right now for a shot to get $1,000 in your hand. Here it is.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Work. That's work. Enter it on our station website now.
Enter work at am1300thezone.com or ticket760.com for your shot at $1,000. We've got more keywords for you throughout the day and the rest of the week here on both stations. Bill, there was this little game on Sunday. A lot of people watched it, and one fan in the stands in particular was Mr. LeBron James. He and the Lakers lost to the Warriors the night before, and then he showed up for quite the party on Super Bowl Sunday at SoFi Stadium. And after the Rams win, he got in on things. He wanted to be a part of it. So he suggested that the Lakers and the Dodgers join the Rams for their victory championship parade in LA. I don't know that that's going to come to fruition as the Rams parade is scheduled for today. But to his point, that the Lakers never got a parade for their championship. So as a guy who works very closely in the NBA, we've had a different champion since then. Has the moment come and gone for LA to be celebrating that championship they won a few years ago?
Yes, it has. So, I mean, let the Rams have their championship. They just won the Super Bowl. So as far as I'm concerned, that championship is for the Rams. And it's a shame that the Lakers didn't have a chance to celebrate, but I'm sure they celebrated on their own. But, as someone who's been on the raft and going down the river several times, 4 times now, there's nothing quite like a championship parade, as we know, in San Antonio. But, LeBron's had other championships that he can savor too. He's got a bunch of rings. So I'm not crying any tears for LeBron, the fact that he didn't have a parade.
Voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening with us. Bill, Shannon and I were talking about this, an interesting moment last night after Texas defeats Oklahoma in men's college basketball in overtime, 80-78 last night. Longhorns head coach Chris Beard is headed to the locker room, and apparently an OU fan, possibly a student, is yelling at him and yelling, "Traitor, you're a traitor." And Chris Beard stops, looks to where the heckle came from, and walked up to that fan and very calmly had a conversation with him. We're still waiting to hear what was said by Chris Beard, what was the exchange. But now there's some people out there on social media criticizing Chris Beard for engaging with that fan. Some people saying, hey, other coaches, when they get heckled, they just, let it be. I was kind of happy that Chris Beard, if somebody yells something at you as a human being, I believe you have the right to go over there and see what's going on in their head and why they're saying this. How do you feel about this? I know it's unusual, but do you think any of the criticism is warranted for Chris Beard to go over and talk with this fan who clearly was anti-Chris Beard?
Well, it's funny. I wonder if the fan was still anti-Chris Beard after that conversation. And I think that, and I don't know much about the story, Chris, you're just telling me for the first time, but remember all the stuff that happened a week or two ago when they went out to Texas Tech. Now, I understand the Tech fans being upset, the students being upset that Chris Beard left them and went to Texas. I get that. But I think that they went over the board. I think that they really, especially the night before when they had practice, apparently the game wasn't too bad. But the night before, they were blocking the ramps. There were several hundred students out there, chanting expletive deleted and everything. I think that was not a good sign of class on the part of the Texas Tech student body. And I don't know if last night this Oklahoma fan was a guy that transferred from Texas Tech. And if he did, well, maybe he's a traitor too. So I think that you're right. I think if someone confronts you, you have an opportunity, and it sounded like he did it in a very calm, very loving kind of way. Like, hey, okay, let's talk about this. Why do you think I'm a traitor? And we all have opportunities in our life to move up. And I'm not comparing Texas Tech to Texas, but Chris Beard went to the University of Texas. He was on Tom Pender's staff as a graduate assistant back when I was doing the games. I don't remember Chris, to be honest with you, but he was there. And this is an opportunity for him to go home, to go back to his alma mater, and I'm sure to get a nice little pay raise as well. It's the dream job for him. So this student may, at some point in his life, have an opportunity to take his career job. And you got to leave a job to get to that job, right? So everybody's got their own path that they choose and their own path that they travel. And Chris Beard's travel path took him to the University of Texas. He had to leave Lubbock to get to Austin. That was his prerogative. That was his choice. I think we all have our choices to make in life, and it's a free country. He's allowed to do that.
Yeah, and I think especially when he's choosing to go home, the fact that was his alma mater. I mean, the Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma for USC, I think, I think you can justify a little bit more anger on the part of a fan base when it's just kind of a money move. Whereas for Chris Beard, it may have always been his dream job to go back to Texas, where he was a student and had a history. Bill Schoening will have the call tonight as the San Antonio Spurs try to go 3-2 on the rodeo road trip. They're at Oklahoma City. Tip off just after 7 o'clock. So Spurs radio game night, the pregame show with Bill Schoening, 6:30. Coming from 1200 WOAI in San Antonio and across the Spurs radio network. Bill, it's always a blast. We especially love it on a Spurs game day, just to kind of get it. It's almost a pregame show with you to kind of gear up for tonight's Spurs game. We always love it. I will see you in the hallway tonight, and have a great call. We'll talk to you on the radio.
And you don't have to stay in the hallway. You can stop in the studio and give me a fist bump or something, Chris. That's okay,
I will do that. Bill.
All
Looking
right.
forward to it, man. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Shannon, I can't believe he gets a vacation like I do, and he's going to be calling baseball games. And I'm going to be drinking adult beverages at Port Aransas, and he's still going to be working as a play-by-play guy.
Well, good for him. But yeah, I'd lean more your way, Chris. You're offering me a vacation? Yes, absolutely. I will take it.
Yes, I will take it. And I'm going to load up the vehicle with some beer. All right, coming up, we will take a look at all the other trending stories in the world of sports from across the National Football League, the NBA, college hoops, and more. Don't go anywhere. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler, short timer, soon to go old Chris Beard and leave us after a while. We won't call him a traitor. We're not going to do that. I don't think. At least not this show. More coming up. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Louisa says, go Spurs, go. Yeah, Louisa joins us frequently on Spurs React after the games, which is very cool. I always appreciate seeing those of you who are part of our morning show crew also joining us for Spurs React. That's a lot of fun. Okay, I need to email something here. Where did it go? There it is. Woo-hoo. So let's do this. This goes to XR5. Yeah, if the Spurs can win tonight, that would be very, very nice. That would be a cool quality win to send them to 3-2, and I think really have them feeling good about themselves going into that All-Star break. Let's see here. This is go there, and there they are. Correct? Yes. Okay. see something here. There's that. Now I need. Wow, that's interesting. Okay. So this is going to be the 21st, right? Right. Two here. What is happening?
Do you know much about golf?
I'm not a huge. I know a little. I'm not a huge. All right. Let's see. Where was I here? How long is that? It's a little long. Two more. I'll do those on the way out. All right. Louisa, I have not tried it. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it available yet. I will. I'm hearing good things about it, though. And Troy Aikman has been making the rounds. David Valles says Spurs by 20 tonight. I hope you're right. Check something here real quick. Here we go. Let's see. And Michael Stone, if you're still here, I saw that. TexasFootball.com. Vote for the Holmes Huskies under the student training program. Back. Little welcome to the jungle there. Mr. Dave Ayler, your Soundscape stylist. If you're just tuning in or you tuned in late, we broke the news at the top of the show at 6 o'clock. Dave Ayler is leaving us, going back to his native St. Louis KMOX radio there, where he will get more sleep and more money. What a concept. Here's what we're offering you. We're offering you more sleep and more money. No!
I would have settled for one of them, but they gave me both.
Very nice. We'll continue to heckle Dave Ayler in the coming days. It's last day, March 2nd-ish. All right, Shannon. We're apparently a case of mistaken identity involving Carson Wentz out on social media. What's going on with this story?
Yeah, so as we know, the Los Angeles Rams won a Super Bowl, and a lot of people love to hold or get the chance to hold that Super Bowl trophy because a lot of people realize that's something that they might never achieve. And yesterday, the Rams posted some photos along with the caption, "Feeling like royalty," of a gentleman in the Rams locker room with a Super Bowl winning LA Rams hat and holding the trophy. And it just so happens that this person looks a lot like Carson Wentz, this person being the royalty, Prince Harry, or whatever he goes by now, because I don't understand all of the royalty stuff that's been apparently in the news.
Yeah.
But he's holding this trophy, and I mean, people are totally right. At first glance, just scrolling through a timeline of all of the other things that pop up on social media, it looks like Carson Wentz. It looks like Carson Wentz was like, listen, Matthew Stafford, you finally did it. You won your Super Bowl. Go ahead and retire. I'm looking for a new team. Let me just go ahead and put on this here cap and hold this Super Bowl trophy like I'm going to win it for us next year. Have you seen the picture?
I'm looking at them right now. Yeah, and there's a few different ones out there. But yeah, if you would not have said that's Prince Harry, if you would have said this is Carson Wentz in the locker room of the Rams holding the trophy, yeah, it looks like him. I didn't know, and I see some other tweets out there with like side by side other like actual photos of Carson Wentz and Prince Harry, and yes, they do look very much alike.
Yeah,
they could be brothers.
I mean, Carson Wentz was trending yesterday. I click on it thinking we have more news as far as his future and what that might look like, whether it be with the Colts or not. And I click on it and it's the picture of Prince Harry holding the Super Bowl trophy. And I was like, I get it. It makes sense.
And, for Carson Wentz, who, did not have a good finish to his season, played very badly in the last couple of games, as documented by HBO's Hard Knocks. I mean, he's probably not feeling that good, probably the day after the Super Bowl either, having not even been able to go to the playoffs when he should have. All they had to do was win one of their last two games against the Raiders or Jacksonville, which they certainly should have won. So for Carson Wentz, that is not a happy happy time for him,
Well-
I would think,
well-
to see himself trending and find out why.
It's so easy to forget that he does have a Super Bowl trophy. He is the
Ooh.
reason they got to the playoffs that season, that the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He just didn't win the Super Bowl trophy himself. You know?
Good point. Yeah, and for fans to go, hey man, that's Nick Foles' Super Bowl. What you're right. If Nick Foles was at quarterback that whole year for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think we could argue that those Eagles either probably don't or may not go to that Super Bowl. So yeah, that's all. It's like Odell Beckham Jr. Now, granted, he played in this game and wished he'd have played the whole game. But even if he didn't, he had some big plays in the playoffs for them. And ever since he signed, if you're part, and even if you don't play, if you're part of that team and you're part of practice and you're working out and you're part of helping the other players, get to be their best. Granted, everybody wants to play. And if you're an athlete and you're on a team, you want to play. But if you're part of that team, man, you and they win a championship, I think you've earned the ring. You could argue some earned the ring more than others. But speaking of NFL players earning rings, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Odell did score the first touchdown for the Rams in the Super Bowl. So it's not like he didn't contribute. And given the closeness of the score, you take that away. So I would argue that although, the injury and it felt like he wasn't there for most of the game, he did contribute in a huge way for that team to get that ring.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Now, speaking of rings and NFL players, a story involving Houston Texan Jonathan Owens and a ring and another person that we may have heard of. What do you got there?
Yeah, someone who's more closely aligned to 5 rings of multiple colors. Olympian Simone Biles. They've been dating since, I believe, the fall of 2020. They apparently got engaged on Valentine's Day. They both took to their socials yesterday to make the announcement. Listen, Houston's been needing another royal couple after Kealia Ohai and JJ Watt moved to Arizona. JJ Watt made the move. They were the royal couple of Houston. I think this is what the city of Houston needs. I mean, they've been making some great appearances, whether it be Rockets games or just other events around town. For them to now take that spot, I think it's great. I just hope for their sake that Jonathan doesn't get traded. I hope he can stay a Texan for a while.
Yeah, because she is such a part of the Houston experience and a Houston native. And, we just talked about her the other day about, what she went through at the Tokyo Olympics and just somebody, and she was one of the, the victims of the Larry Nassar, sexual abuse scandal. I just want Simone Biles to be happy. I want her to have a good life. She's been through so much and still overcome so much to achieve so much. And you just can't not like her. I just think she's so cool and such a great person. Hopefully this all works out well for her and Houston Texan Jonathan Owens. And speaking of the Olympics, Shannon, we've got some Olympians and Olympic athletes that are not feeling happy about everything going on in Beijing. Another story coming out of Beijing with some athletes that are unhappy.
Yeah, so the women's skate program is currently underway, the individual competition. And as we've been discussing, this 15-year-old from Russia, Kamila how would you say that? Valieva? We'll just call her Kamila.
I'd say something Russian.
Yeah.
Kamila, something Russian.
Kamila has been granted the opportunity to continue to compete. She is projected to medal, if not take gold. And there's a huge issue in that, A, they're allowing her to compete, and B, if she does medal, they will not hold a medal ceremony, meaning anyone else who medals is not going to get to go through that once-in-a-lifetime monumentous moment, especially if they were to take gold over her, right? They wouldn't get that moment with their national anthem, with their flag, and having that medal draped over their neck. So that the program kicked off yesterday. A lot of people, it was part of the primetime coverage on NBC last night. And all of the previous athletes who are now leading the way for that broadcast as commentators were not shy about completely disagreeing with the IOC and letting her continue to compete, how unfair it is for the athletes who did not drug themselves or passed all of their tests, have done everything the right way. She's potentially taking a medal away from someone else who could earn it. I mean, imagine this female who's going to place fourth, that they could have gotten a medal had she been removed from the competition. And so that is underway. And guess who is currently in first place in the women's program? It is Camila, as they move on to the women's free skate, that I believe is going to be later on tonight.
Yeah. At the height of this controversy, I saw a picture of her, like at an event in Beijing, and she's just kind of looking off into the distance, frowning. It was like one of those wah, wah poses or expressions. That was before the decision was made to let her compete, which I just thought it was a funny, of all the photos that were probably taken of her, whoever the editorial person to use that photo, it was an interesting choice. But again, Shannon, and we've talked about this, hopefully the Olympics moving forward in the future gets this right. If you want to compete, they need to say, all right, you have to list all of the medications you take, and you have to declare that none of these are banned by the Olympic Committee, and they need to say once you make that declaration, once you get here, if we find out there's an error in your declaration, then that's on you. That's on the athlete.
Yep.
I still, I feel for a 15-year-old young lady who's trying to pursue her dream, and I want her to have a shot at it, but not at the expense of other people who played by the rules and did all the right things. It's kind of tough. It's tough for a lot of people in this circumstance.
Well, and this is bringing up from last summer, Shikari, the racetrack star, who I believe it was a positive weed test, right? And the committee said, nope, that's an illegal substance. You're out. It's like, why is Russia, they're already banned from the Olympics, yet they're somehow finding these ends to compete. And then while in the Olympics, it's revealed they test positive for drugs and they're still getting to compete. Like, it's got to be the same across all sports, across all boards, as far as the tolerance policy and, whether or not that allows you to compete in an event. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Finally, Shannon, a story Dave OEHLER has provided us involving Cincinnati Bengals cornerback Eli Apple, who apparently, headed into the postseason, was very active on social media, was very critical of other players, and has got into some social media fights with some people. And apparently he's angered people on social media. And I guess maybe some fans are angered by, his behavior on and off the field since the Bengals lost the Super Bowl. Apparently he even got into it with NFL stars like Lamar Jackson and Tyreek Hill, and they've thrown jabs back at him on social media. Apparently now a Maryland restaurant by the name of Jimmy's Famous Seafood added an Eli Apple special on their menu. You can now buy this. It includes 2 pieces of burnt toast, because he was burnt a lot at cornerback, apple slices, and some fries. So if you would like to order up the Eli Apple special, 2 pieces of burnt toast, apple slices, and some fries. He's got his own menu item now.
What in the bullying is this?
Eli Apple.
I mean, we've heard of cyberbullying, kitchen bullying. What? Is this Gordon? Is this Gordon Ramsay? This sounds like some Gordon Ramsay emotional drama damage that he might cause on Hell's Kitchen or something. That's horrible. I almost feel bad for Eli Apple.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're the marketing director of Jimmy's Famous Seafood in Maryland, I mean, they got people in Texas and across the country talking about him. So maybe it's marketing. Maybe this will be what they do from now on. Almost. What's the name of the place, the Mexican place that has the great marquee in Austin that always has like a great saying and something very, very funny? It's slipping my mind now, and I'll remember it. Arroyo.
El
right?
Arroyo. Yeah.
El Arroyo. Yeah. They're known for their great marquee and always having something funny on the marquee. So maybe this place in Maryland, Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Every time somebody screws up in the world of sports, they'll name a menu item out of them. Maybe that'll become their new shtick.
Unlike, what is it, the place in Chicago that does the hot dogs and names them after people who do great things? This is the opposite of that.
It's the opposite. Well, Shannon, we learned today that Dave OEHLER is going to leave us on the 2nd of March to go back to St. Louis, and I'm going to leave both of you for the next week. As soon as the Spurs game ends tonight, I am on vacation. It's going to be you and Coach A, Paul Alexander tomorrow, which is going to be great. Even though I'm on vacation, when it's you two guys, I tune in. You guys are great together. And Dave OEHLER, you're back on with Shannon and Coach on Friday. Is that official, or do we even know?
Tomorrow I'm down the hall, and hopefully I'll be back on Friday.
Okay. We hope you're back. And hopefully Shannon and Paul will be nice to you, which I wasn't today because I'm, angry you're leaving us.
And I'm working for in the same building that Paul worked at when he was in St. Louis.
Oh, so you got to come work with him. So
he worked
crazy.
He worked at KMOV Channel 4.
That is crazy. It's a small world. And apparently Shannon, Scott Manziera, who left us for St. Louis, knows people in that building as well. So we'll get into all of that before we'll have to roast Dave OEHLER on his final show when he's with us. Shannon, have a blast tomorrow and for the next week, and I'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the time off.
Thank you so much. Go Spurs, go. Thanks to Bill Schoening. I'll be on the radio with him tonight during the Spurs broadcast. Shannon, Salty Sweeney, and Dave OEHLER. Have yourself a great Wednesday, and go Spurs, go. Woo! All right, y'all. See you later. Go Spurs, go. Adios. I'll see you on Spurs React later tonight. Bye-bye.